We're going to share again. Here we go. So the City of Richmond has a Department of Children and Youth, and it also has a couple of other programs. I'll just tell you generally what they are. We'll go there. These are a handful of the grants that we currently oversee. We released the RFP regarding specifically the Richmond Fund for Children and Youth, but in the RFP, I also referenced that other departments could potentially also be utilizing whatever solutions you all may have available. And these represent those departments. ECIA grant, there's a mini grant. CSD is the community service, has a mini grant as well, neighborhood public art program. And there are some potentially other departments that might be building and structuring some grant programs. Right. Oops. So the City of Richmond Department of Children and Youth, how we've historically released grants is via our webpage. So we build out this webpage, and we have documents that people will historically download. There's the RFP. We have these tiles, a MS Word version of a narrative. We also request specifically for our grant, there needs to be a level of demographic reporting, also activities and operations, and a budget table. And we let people know when they're released, let people know when they're due. So people historically submit. I'm so sure if somebody's got their microphones on, if someone could mute, that'd be great. So we have forms pages. So the way that once people download those grant pages, I mean those documents, we utilize our forms page here for submittal. And so we will build out a form. We're a little slow. And I'm going to just open up one of these just so that you can see what it looks like. And this will be a web page. And that page will have this level of information in it about the organization, their contact information, what type of applicant they are. They will upload, so they've downloaded from our webpage some of those documents that I shared previously. They then upload those documents into this portal, in addition to their budgets. And then there are some recitals here about their financials, and then submittals that they're authorized to submit electronic signature. And so this is typically how we've facilitated grant submittal, is we build documents in Word, convert them to some type of fillable form, either a Word or a PDF fillable form. We build out these forms pages via our web hosting service, and then people just basically upload those documents. Now I'm going to go back. What happens is that once those documents are submitted, they're listed here in our submissions page. We can see who submitted, what, when. You won't see anything here because they're kind of expired. And but we get this level of detail. We export that out to a CSV file. And then what happens is we download those applications onto a shared drive, which I'm now showing you. So all of those applications are downloaded. We then create some type of naming convention so that each document is sequenced in the way that we want it to. And I will show you just what that Excel document looks like. This is some of the information that's downloaded, and we take this information and build out some additional things. Once we've got the applications, right, and we've sorted them, et cetera, we then create a Google Drive so that we can share with our reviewers. And so what you'll see here is what we've built. We've got the reviewers by area. So we create a folder that the reviewers can access with PDFs and the additional information. And we've also built out score sheets for them. And so this is an example of a score sheet that we've built out using Google Sheets. This is not at all high tech, and but I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of proud of it, given what we know and what we had, doing the best we can with what we had. We're drowning a little bit here. So all of this stuff works, right? And so these things total, they tabulate. We've got drop downs. We have metrics. I mean, not metrics, multipliers, so that the scores total 100. And so our reviewers see this document. They open up their PDFs, they score, they provide notes and information. These things tabulate. Now, once that's done, we then take these scores and numbers and we build out a scoring matrix. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. And I'm very proud of this, even though it's not handy. We've built out this giant Excel document where we have an entry sheet where we enter the scores. Then we have a master sheet. The average scores are totaled. And on the summary sheet, you can see here, we have the organizations, the scores by name. We've averaging scores, their overall rankings. And then that takes those rankings and then it sorts them by rank order. So all of these sheets are connected and linked to each other. And again, it's not handy given you all's background and experience and solutions that you have, but constructing this, I feel kind of proud that we've made it work this far. We then do these, we have meetings, we take these documents, we've entered those scores, we know this is the rank order of those particular organizations, their requested funding, et cetera. We then take a list of organizations to our city council for approval. Then we have to enter into agreements with those organizations. So I'll just show you what that file looks like. We'll create vendor contracts with each of the organizations as well, with all of their documents, insurance, and all of those things are prepped and stored on a shared drive. And once organizations need to submit, we also then create a Google link to a shared drive. So we have reporting, and I'll just show you what that looks like. So we'll pick an organization for 21-22. We've created these folders in these Google Drives where people are not only uploading their reporting as far as showing backup of how they spent dollars, we have to build out tracking for the reimbursement or advances. So here is a major pain point for us. A lot of times people can submit documentation via these Google Drives and they won't have submitted everything that we need, or they will go in. So for this particular organization, their budget is structured as salary and benefits and then program expenses. We would love to have a system that locks this stuff. And so we've locked these fields so that, number one, organizations can't come in and change this information. And they have to submit within the specified area so that people aren't submitting here, aren't deleting things, that these things are automatically tabulating. So we've done the very best we can to control or remain a level of control on these things. But one of the pain points for us is the budget sheets as far as it relates. So once an organization is approved for funding and we've got their scope and their budget set up, we then enter what they've said. They will tell us how much they've spent, enter those numbers here. And so what we don't want to have, or what we love to see rather, is when it comes to reporting, that whatever we require for reporting has to be submitted together. So when organizations report, if they're doing it by quarter or biannually, we want to see a narrative template. So I'll just go back. We want to see a progress report, which this organization has completed, which is also, Google Doc with these questions. And they also need to submit or supply information under the grant reimbursement for that particular quarter. And they also have to submit supporting documentation for financials. And so a lot of times people will submit partial stuff. They'll just submit the narrative, or they'll complete the reimbursement, but there'll be no attachments, or they'll do the financials, but there'll be no grant report. One of the things we love to be able to control is that they aren't allowed to submit unless they have that complete package together, so that we as staff aren't, when we have the moment or the time to actually review, aren't reviewing partial documents, and then we get phone calls saying we submitted, quote, submitted what you needed, and then we get in there and we see that things are missing. And because we are very limited on time, when we get the opportunity to look here, something might have been sitting for 2 weeks and we finally get to look at it, and then we recognize that it's incorrect. It can be problematic, because then the organization is like, now it's been 4 weeks or however long. And so we really want to control the fact that people aren't allowed to submit unless they submit everything to that reimbursement sheet. We want a form. When it comes to organizations that have already been approved for funding, that the organizations will be submitting how much they've spent, that these tabulate, and they can only enter here. They have to enter something here, and they can't be taken. That the things that are standard, we love to be able to lock elements of that particular form as well. And so once organizations are reporting and submitting documents for reimbursement for their particular grant funds, we then go to our Munis enterprise system. And I won't necessarily show you that, but I'll just stop sharing right there. We then transfer to our Munis enterprise system to create requisitions and purchase orders, and then to what we call PO receive, which is basically to authorize payment for our enterprise system to send the check to that particular vendor. And so somebody's buttering me up. Thanks, Chris. This is not our system, as you can see, is homemade and kind of a lot of different steps and jumping, and it requires a great deal of juggling on our part. And we're tired of it. So you guys and gals and everybody else in between, we are looking for you all to make our lives a whole lot easier. So if there are questions, or if somebody wants me to go back over something, I can now make space and time for that. But that is our process, and we want you to take all of that information into consideration when we follow up with you this week about scheduling demonstrations, which is why I wanted to do this. So I didn't want you to show me your greatest hits and not know that what our pain points are, what we're already doing as well. And what I can do is I can send this video out to everyone, so that if there are people on your team that weren't in attendance, or you want to go back and review or look at kind of what we said, you can do that as well. So at this point, if there are questions, I think everybody should be able to unmute themselves or raise their hands. And I can address any questions or go back over something if you want a little bit more clarity about a section that I shared.
Hi, this is Chris with City Data Services. Can you just elaborate just a tiny bit on the transition from like your expense summary, request reimbursement into an enterprise system, essentially, and issuing the PO or following the PO or attaching the PO? Can you be a little more specific about what you do right now in that with that process?
Sure. So I'll just share my screen again, just so that we're referencing it. So Chris and everyone else, when we get this document, what we do is we have a complete report by quarter or by half year, whatever it is. we will check to make sure that what they said they are expensing us for, they have appropriate documentation and support, and that they have the appropriate progress reporting or final reporting. When we know that, hey, everything is in order, we've got all the receipts we need, and we have the progress report and all the reporting and metrics associated with that are appropriate, then we create, because we have a contract with this organization, we would have created a requisition. And that requisition is something that we do in our enterprise system. The requisition encumbers the funds from a particular budget line that has been set aside for this particular grant. So each grant project or program will have a budget line. And so the requisition encumbers those funds. So hypothetically, this organization got a $100,000 grant for the Department of Children and Youth. Hypothetically, let's say we have $1 million to give away. We go in and create a requisition with this particular organization. They would have been set up as a vendor in our enterprise system. So the requisition will be looked to their vendor account. And then once we have the requisition, our finance department will create what is called a purchase order. That purchase order is what we then will use to draw down within our enterprise system on their particular reimbursement request. And that purchase order, we do what we call PO receiving. So we get this expense report or invoice quote. And let's say we're in the first quarter, they spent $13,000. We've created our requisition. We've created our purchase order. Those are both linked. We have a contract, and those are linked to this particular vendor in our enterprise system. We use that purchase order, and we call it PO receive, and it is an internal process where we'll upload this expense report into our enterprise system units. We'll upload the backup documentation, and we might upload perhaps the particular progress report. So it becomes this packet. Upload that into our enterprise system. We then type in to our enterprise system, hey, the vendor number, the purchase order number, and the amount to be expended on that particular purchase order. There's an internal workflow within the Munis system that then signals to our finance department to issue a check, either a hard copy check, or some people are set up for electronic funds transfer. And those funds are then expended to that particular organization.
So just a follow-up on that. So essentially you guys have the total fund that you are managing and accessing, or your portion of the fund, so that you can follow the total dollar amount for whatever annual allocation you have. So at any given time, you can see, like, across the board how much you've spent with all your programs and how much you have remaining.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And Chris, I want to bring up something else just because we're looking at this. So this is a pain point for us, as I said. I'm going to show you another thing that we want to see, especially around reporting. So we have tables, and here we go. We'll do this one. So we have tables that speak to some of the reporting elements. So this particular organization projected they would serve 446 kids. And then by quarter, we've set up this document that they can come in and enter into, and it totals how many kids by ethnicity, how many young people by gender, and how many young people by residential zip code. So this will be something that we'll also want to see. And so we've created this entry form because it's easier. And then I built out this backside that tells us tabulations and other things by quarter and number of participants, et cetera. Another report that they have to do is this activities and projections table. And so this is a little large. This particular organization is saying they're going to do, the name of the activity is this. They'll be consulting, the number of sessions, et cetera. This is the projected thing they are going to do, right? The days of the week and the locations. And then under activities, we get what the actuals were. And so That budget table is something that we want, and the details that I've shared around kind of locking some things and requiring. And this will also be something as far as capturing some of the reporting in addition to some of the narrative and some of the expense reporting. We'll want demographic and activity reporting capabilities to capture, tabulate, and also to maybe do some of a little bit of analysis, some things that you might be able to do in a pivot table, perhaps, around doing some analysis to say, okay, how many individuals doing this are doing this. And so I did want to share that as well. Any other questions? This is your time.
Patrick, I have a question just in general about the file formats that you were utilizing, some of the descriptions that were there. Is there a way for individuals like ourselves to receive copies of drafted emptied responses templates?
Drafted.
Or do we work with the recording? Some of the fields and some of the reports that you were sharing that your teams created had columns and rows that were custom and unique to your team's reports. Do we just reflect back to the recording to see what it looks like, or is there a way to get like a template?
So you know what, Ali? Is this Ali?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
this is.
Okay. So I will definitely share the recording, and what I'll do, Ali, just for your and for everyone's sake, is I will kind of, if you guys want it, I will kind of give you a sample of each of the documents. So that if you want to be fancy, and it sounds like Ali wants to be, and I'm for it, I will send you all a sample, because these documents are public records technically, because we're a public institution. So I will just send you maybe a file, or attach a file, and it might be a OneDrive file, just so that I don't have to worry about your system being able to receive the documents. I might put something in a OneDrive file, send a link to you all, and
that would be great,
and have all of this stuff. So if you kind of want to go through and see kind of, okay, how has Patrick constructed this, and so I appreciate that. I will send a OneDrive file. So those that want to take up the time to kind of explore and take into consideration what we've done, and I'll send some contracts as well. I'll give you as much as you need. I'll give you probably more than you need.
I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, scrubbed data. That's what I was looking for. Not drafted templates, but scrubbed information templates. Yeah,
sure.
That's great. Thank you so much. I wanted one more question about the review rubric. You mentioned areas and groups. Curious about that. How is that being separated by area A, area B?
Sure. So currently, the RDCY currently has six priority areas. And so if you go to our webpage, I'm not sharing. So if you go to our webpage, and the homepage for the Department of Children and Youth is richmondyouth.org. And that's where you can go to at least get to, or if you're on the homepage, you can click youth. But so under resources is our strategic investment plan. And we did a strategic investment plan. And in that plan, there were 6 priority areas that were designated. So in our review process, we select reviewers both from our oversight board, city staff, and then I select very similar agencies from San Francisco, Oakland, Alameda, San Pablo, joining cities that have departments of children and youth or youth service organizations or departments. And we kind of mix them together, and we do review by priority area. So one of these 6, each priority area will have its own review group. And so each priority area will get a set of applications, and they'll also get a bundle of review sheets. So this particular reviewer, Theodora, she reviewed priority area 1, behavioral mental health, but there are 5 others, at least 5 other folks with their names on their particular sheet. And they all get their applications and their score sheets. And this stuff is pre-populated for them, the name of the organization, the applicant type, whether they're a single agency or collaborative. And so the reason that, and the requested amount. And so the reason that identifying the type of applicant is because we're trying to look at our review process through an equity lens. And so one of the ways that we do that is that we have 3 categories of applicants for the RDCY, not necessarily for the other grant programs that I shared with you, with the mini grants in community services or recreation or the art grant. But for RDCY, Department of Children and Youth, we have 3 categories. One is a single agency. That means organizations who make more than 750. We have collaborative organizations that are 2 or more applicants applying as a collaborative. And we have small and emerging. And those are organizations who make less than $250,000. And so we like to be able to designate the application. And on the application itself, on the form page I shared earlier, that is a field that they have to complete. So that small and emerging categories or organizations who have smaller budgets and maybe smaller capacity, smaller staff size are reviewed and scored within their category, but they are going to be also scored in relationship to each other. So we always want to make sure that we are awarding grants to small and emerging organizations who might have less capacity, less staff, less budget, competing against organizations who have multi-million-dollar budgets. And so this information here is important to designate that. And as I said before, the different review groups are based on the priority areas. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thanks, Patrick.
No worries. Any other questions?
Hey, Patrick, this is Mohammed. Quick
Yes, sir.
question going back to the conversation around the requisition and the process of transactions over to Munis. Where do you want ideally the grant system to, like, where do you want the process to end in the grant system and then the process to pick up in Munis? Do you want it to function as it is today, or would you actually like the grant system to handle a little bit more or automate anything that's sent over to Munis?
So Sandy, I'm gonna ask you maybe to chime in here a little bit on that process.
Okay, so ideally we would like to have what you saw in the grant pieces in the grant, anything that he mentioned in Munis to stay in Munis, since that's where we would issue out the payments. We are in a version that is going to be currently we're in a version 2019. We can only really do flat files, but we're planning to move to 2021 version of Munis, which will have have more APIs open. I haven't researched on which ones that would be working for this. And we're going to be using, if you already know about Munis, we're using the project ledger to help manage project and grant module in Munis to manage these parts.
Got it. Okay, so you would still want to collect and review the post-award documentation, the reporting, and the financial reports in the grant system, and then once all that is approved, you would want to export that information and continue with the current Munis process from there. Is that correct?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. And then there's a future state of potentially leveraging API in the next iteration of Munis. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Mohammed, for those questions. Any other questions? Okay.
I had one more question.
Sure.
Is for the scoring process. So you mentioned that you have your groups, your reviewers broken out by the priority areas. Are you always, and I noticed also earlier that there were different rounds. So how many rounds would you have of intake? And are you creating different scoring templates or evaluation criteria for different rounds or different opportunities within the overall program? Or really it's the same program, same scoring evaluation criteria, that's kind of being reused over and over again?
So for the Department of Children and Youth, there is one round of funding. So I appreciate this question. So and this is a little bit more detail, Mohammed. So when we get applications submitted, we conduct what we call a threshold review. So we're going to look at that application and we're going to say, does not the content of the application, but the components of the entire application. And so that includes the application form itself, the budget template, as far as what they're want as far as funding. They also have to submit an organizational budget. They need to submit financials, so either audited financials, reviewed financials, or they need to be submitting 990s or 990Ns. For those organizations, they need to submit a 501c3 designation letter. And if they're not a 501c3, they need to submit a fiscal sponsorship agreement. And that organization's 501c3 designation letter, that organization's audited or reviewed or 990 financials need to be included. They'll also need to include a copy of their list of their board of directors as well. So when we look at a package, those are the elements of a grant application package for us. So we conduct a threshold review to say, do you have all of those things? If they don't have all of those things, we actually provide some grace period. We want to be able to communicate to them and reach out to them and say, hey, this is either missing or what they've uploaded is inadequate. So in essence, I guess that's kind of a round. Once we've given everybody an opportunity to fix or remedy any of those issues, we've completed our threshold. And so all the organizations who have quote met threshold, meaning they submitted all the required documents, we then go to which may be considered a second round, where we then organize the applications by type. We then are scheduling and configuring our review groups and sending those organizations that sheet or the sets of sheets. So the reviewers score independently. Then what happens once they've scored independently, we enter all that stuff into that massive Excel document I showed you. And then we have a meeting with each individual review group as a whole, as a collective. And we say, okay, here's how they felt. Does this look right? Do we need to change any scores? What are your recommendations as far as funding? What feedback do you have about why this person gets partial funding or no funding? And once that happens, we as staff draft a report to take to our oversight board for their ultimate approval. And it will also go to the city council. And so we aren't necessarily calling them rounds, but they could be, I guess, considered rounds. As it relates to the review criteria, those do not change round to round, in essence. So if I were going to describe them as rounds, it would be round one would be threshold review. And it is a checklist of, do they have all the requirements that make an application? Round two, if we wanted to count that, could be considered the reviewers reviewing based off a set of criteria that we give them, and then subsequently finalizing their scores and us taking them. So once we get to round two, whatever review criteria were at place at that moment, they no longer change at that time. And I might be giving you more feedback than you want, but I'd rather go overboard than so that you understand our mindset and how we see things, so that can inform you.
Thank you. That's extremely helpful. One follow-up there is, when you're moving past the threshold review and you're going to the actual evaluation and scoring with your panel of reviewers.
Yes.
How are you handling, beyond making the application accessible to them and the score sheets accessible to them, how are you handling communication with the reviewers if they have questions, if they have concerns in the middle of the review process? Is there any, I'm sure that's a pain point, so would love to hear any thoughts on kind of what you're looking for there.
So, Mohammed, so you're answering questions I didn't even ask, and I appreciate that, right? So it definitely happens, right? And I appreciate the question. So reviewers will send us emails, right? And sometimes, I'll be honest, if you guys are involved with technology and solutions, there are a lot of emails. I'm be honest with you, Mohammed, I hate emails. I just personally hate emails. I'd rather pick up the phone and have a conversation. I don't want to get an email unless I know it's coming. So people will email us and we'll do our best to remedy solutions. They might say, hey, this document has been uploaded twice. Can you fix it? Or, oh, this person didn't, they might ask us questions about the content, where they say, oh, this person stopped answering question 4 and it seems incomplete. That is something that we don't evaluate at all. And so typically we just have to send emails to the people. It would be great if we could communicate via the platform, and that they know they could communicate to us via the platform, so that we don't get emails that are getting lost in other emails, but we can log on to the platform maybe once a day during the review process, just to make sure there aren't any lingering questions. Or if you're thinking savvy, right, we get a question that we want to blast out to everybody, a response we'd love to blast out to everybody, because maybe everybody's experiencing the same type of questions, or a majority of people are maybe experiencing similar question or issue. That would be great if that was something that we could do. And so historically, there's just been these one-off emails that have come in around questions on reporting, and we have to reply to them. But that would be definitely a great value to us if there was a way to make that responses, either in the tracking the responses and responses itself, more efficient and easier for us. So thank you for that question.
That's helpful. Appreciate the feedback.
Any more questions? Anybody want to see something again? Like I said, we are recording this, and I'm going to create a OneDrive file and throw as much stuff in there as I can, so that you all can maybe deconstruct with your teams what we're actually doing, because what I may be saying may not be actually what we're doing.
I do have one aspect of a question for reporting. One of the reports, the applicants go in and they fill out in Excel. Another lane of reports, they're filling out in Google Sheets. Is that the right process that's happening for them? Some are Sheets and some are Excel?
That is true.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, they're all Sheets. The Excel document I showed you, so we're using Google as a platform because we can share it, right? And we didn't have Teams 8 years ago when we began this process. So everything is held in Google because we got tired of people sending us emails and then us responding to the stuff saying it's wrong. We wanted a place that we could jointly see their stuff and give them feedback on it, and they could log in and correct it. So everything is in Google Sheets, either a Google form or it is a Google sheet. The Excel document I showed you is a document we created, myself and one other person. That behemoth of sheets, or that workbook, was something we use when we go into inner scores and rank and rate them, right? We want a system that's going to do that for us. Right now, I have to go in like a mechanic every year and make sure the thing is working right. Like it's like a tune-up, and make sure that everything is pointing to where it needs to be, everything is looking at what it should be, and that it's working appropriately. I'm smart enough in Excel to do that, but I'm not as smart as you all technologically. And so we're hoping that the solution will automatically do all the things that we want it to do. So the Excel document isn't what any other reviewers see or will interface with when they're scoring. The Excel doc is for us.
I guess it's more pointed to the initial form that the applicants fill out. The budget that they're filling out, is that budget file is an Excel file.
It is.
But
so
then all the post-award or post-process application is done in Sheets, but the initial is Excel.
You're 100% right about that. And so let me show you what we do there, just so that you have as much clarity as possible. So on our document, you're right, that is true. And so I will send these documents to you all. So we have these are all Word documents, and the budget template is also a Word document. As far as our application, I had an Excel document down here below, just in case some people, and also for the demographics as well, in case people want to do that, because it will tabulate for them. But we also have to speak to the reason that we do this is because a lot of the organizations aren't very even savvy in Microsoft Office Suite. So using an Excel document for them for the folks whose nonprofit work is based off of weekends and nights, we didn't want to also create another burden for them by forcing them to use an Excel doc if that's not something that they're used to doing. And so we've provided them all in Word, just because most people are familiar with Word and most people can have access to Microsoft Office Suite. And we also provide Excel documents as well for those who may feel like it'd be easier and more consistent, and maybe leans into their strengths with their familiarity with that particular application.
That answers 100%. Thanks, Patrick.
Patrick, this is Bill. One more question, a couple of questions here, actually.
Sure.
Your office mainly uses, kind of Microsoft products or Google products? Which one?
So Microsoft products. So IT hates, I'm being honest with you,
Yes.
Okay.
that we're using Google, but they can't say nothing to us about it because they didn't give us a better option.
At the time, right?
Yeah. So
Yep.
we had to do what we had to do. And I'm just like, they're gonna be mad at us because we didn't even tell them. We just did it.
Yeah.
So anyways, next question, Bill.
Yeah. The other question is, I appreciate that. The other question I had was, you had a couple examples of a review process cycles there. When they hear from the grantee, is that a presentation that the grantee does to the reviewer panel, or is it a site visit? Do you have any need for tracking site visits?
Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
So, great question. I'm happy that you all are asking these questions because some of this stuff I haven't thought about as far as I was thinking, I guess, more of the technical components, but you guys are thinking much more globally, which I appreciate. As far as all the things that go into managing.
Right. Yeah. Like what are specific needs for grant making that,
Yes.
we have?
Once an organization is awarded a grant, all the stuff that I've shown you around the reporting is true. Progress reports, the expense and invoice reporting, the demographics reporting, activities reporting. We also do site visits, right? We want to see the program in action. And so it would be great to be able to track that information because my team is growing, and it'd be nice to know that Nicholas went out and saw one program in action. And so if I look at it and there's some type of dashboard that feeds me that information, it's going to be due to payment. I'm just being honest with you. It'd be great if we had a dashboard. I would love to see something. So not necessarily that the payment was paid, but on a surface level that the Q1 and Q2 reporting was approved, right?
Gotcha. Yep.
That would be wonderful to be able to see if I pull up an organization and I'm like, did we ever review that? And now I got to go into the shared drive
Right.
and be like, oh my God, did they email it? And I'm searching emails, right? Somebody might have already done that work. And I would be great if on a dashboard, in addition to the funding, all of those things, how much has been drawn down based on the approvals in your platform, because you may not necessarily have access to the Munis piece, but if it's tracking this person got $100,000, so far we've approved $50,000 of their funding, they're in Q2, and it would be nice to see. Absolutely. And in addition to, and I'm just, since I got the
We're
money,
all friends here, we might
Yes.
as well- Yeah.
I'm going to just tell you, like, it would also be great, like, and it may not be on the dashboard, but it would be great to have some tabulation of all of those activities and reporting, like high level, like they've reported that they've served 260 kids. Now, it may not necessarily give me the demographics necessarily. I might need just to dig one level lower, but it would be great to say, hey, they've served, according to reporting that you've approved, they've served 477 kids, right?
Yeah.
And it may be zip code and maybe gender, right? Some of that kind of high level stuff. And then if I wanted to get into specifics, maybe I might have to comb a little deeper.
And then needs for geography along those lines too.
Absolutely. Now, it would be great. I'm just being honest with you. I want to do some mapping around like specifically where services are being provided by location. And that would be great to use in some GIS stuff. I'm not telling y'all that's what you got to do.
Sure.
But I'm telling you that
We're
would
in
be
we're in
great.
Christmas list territory now.
That's
I get
it. That's it, right? That doesn't necessarily impact what we need. What I'm showing you is what we need, is because we got to get the work done. But it would be great to be able to access stuff that involves some mapping around service areas and where people are coming from. As far as like, okay, this organization is serving this location, and if we can, they've served the 94801, and there is some dynamic bubble or
Yeah.
thing that says from the 94801 there were 200 kids, and from the 804 there were 600 kids, and so that for that visual element, that would also be that'd be a delight.
Well, and then it get the city commissioners getting the stuff they need, right? The information.
Absolutely, absolutely. The data visuals are always great. So great questions, Bill.
You have a visualization tool that you prefer to use, or are you agnostic about that?
We
Sandy,
actually have one. It's Tyler's Data Insights.
Mhm.
I am looking to see if the city will change its direction, to be honest. But
Okay.
it's something that's in the progress right now.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all that time too.
no worries, no worries. I want to help y'all help me. Do you hear me? So I am willing to answer all the questions that you have.
Hi, this is Kevin French. Kind of continue on with that
Mhm.
discussion. Sounds like you really, the big picture packer, love data, love information. I mean, the flexibility around some of the tools, I would imagine that you'd be interested in being able to pull data from different parts of the database to create your own dashboards and create your own reports. Would that be helpful?
So you mean that I could customize what my dashboard looked like compared to another's?
So you might have a different view into a dashboard when you
If-
log in versus maybe a council member or your city manager or something along those lines, or a program manager.
So yes, the only thing is that there won't be that many people accessing it. So the council members aren't going to be accessing the system. We're probably this system is going to be accessed by probably maybe 3 handfuls of people, maybe 15, probably not even that many. I think I said 25, but it's probably not going to be that many. It could be up to that, but it won't be that many. Where I feel like this could be helpful is we do have on the city's webpage a transparent Richmond site. And so what I could see us doing is exporting this information out onto an open data platform and setting up, some high level dashboard metrics on either specific years, specific priority groups, and if we're really fancy, specific organizations, or by zip code, by council district. Like I could imagine that happening. But just generally your question, if we just remove who has access, I think it would be great if me overseeing a particular grant, want my dashboard set up one way, and somebody else who also has access as an administrator might want to see other things. It would be great if that was possible, there was some flexibility around customizing what layers and information display to you. So I hope that helps, Kev. Okay.
Patrick,
thanks.
one quick question for me is
Yeah.
going back to templates.
Mhm.
In terms of expectations of the new system, for example, we talked about the applicant's budget being submitted as an Excel file that they would attach as a part of their application.
Mhm.
And then we mentioned some of the post-award reporting templates.
Mhm.
Is the goal to keep those, or the expectation to keep those as attachments, or are you looking for those to become sort of forms and inputs within the actual system itself and Excel uploads?
I would love it if people are inputting the documents into the application form or set template that we build out, and to reduce the amount of uploading that needs to be done. Some documents, and given on what I see, some documents we may need to upload, but there may be functionality within some of your systems as it relates to hypothetically the 501c3 status. It might be that you have an integration that allows us to look up that organization, right? So maybe we just have them enter their number and we enter that number, and you might have a plugin somewhere to the federal government as it relates to their EIN, which I think is Secretary of Treasury maybe, that has that information, right? And so I would love to reduce, just to get, I think the spirit of your question is, I would love to reduce the amount of uploads that might be necessary. As it relates to their organizational budget, which is historically a document that they have to upload, that might be something that they may need to continue to upload because people experience the skill, the technology to simply build a budget, even if they build it in Word, and just merely upload, because a lot of people have some experience doing that. But for me personally, it would be nice to eliminate uploads where we can.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. If there are more questions you can ask, like I said, we are recording this. I will send the recording to all of you. I will include all of the grant application documents. I will include I'll include my Excel master sheet. I'll make a copy of it. I'll include the Google Forms. They may not be Google Forms when I send them. I might just download them in Word and then attach them. But I'll include all the forms. And some of them will be complete because these are, again, our public records. So you can actually see the files and what people are doing and et cetera. And we'll attach the recording of the video. I'll try to get that out to you all before Friday. And also what will be happening next is I'm going to schedule some time or a set of times and I'll send it out to everybody. What we're looking for is we'll probably do maybe over a day or a couple of days, a series of probably 45-minute to 1 hour interview/demonstrations. So we want to give you all some time to show us what you got based on the information I've shared thus far and the information I will share. And then we're going to provide some time for staff who have been overseeing various grant programs in the city to then ask some questions and follow up with you around specifics of your demonstration and some things that we may all want or desire or want more information from you regarding your ability and capacity to meet our needs. So that information will probably also be going out Friday, but maybe Monday. We might send a link or a set of times and dates to you all and tell us all the dates and times that you're available, because we have to coordinate with a number of you and you have to coordinate with your teams. So that will be forthcoming, hopefully no later than Monday, to schedule 45-minute, 1 hour interview demonstrations with you all. So those are the immediate next steps. If you have any additional questions, again, I'm here to support you all so that you can provide a solution, hopefully that meets our needs as best as possible. So if there are none, if there are some, speak up.
Hi, Chris again.
Yes.
Will the interviews be in person?
No, they'll be virtual.
Oh, okay.
Did you want to come
Thank
hang
you.
out with us, Chris?
Absolutely.
I want to try to accommodate everybody's teams, because they may be bi-coastal or even international. And so I don't want to also create a burden on you all in that way, to access us as best you can.
Yeah, thank you.
So I hope this was helpful. This is not what is normally done. I don't think it is, but it made sense to me. So I talked to Sandy and she's like, it sounds like a good idea. So I appreciate you all's indulgence and participation today. And I look forward to you all showing me the absolute best that you got. I want you to knock it out of the park. So it makes it really tough for us to pick one. All right. Thank you
for
all.
your time, Patrick.
Thank you all. You all have a good day.
Thank you, Patrick. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right.